First, let's take a look at the difference between pincering and defending the corner. First of all, when you are defending the corner, we have a few options. First is the small knight, second one space jump, and third is a large knight. But unless you have a very specific strategy with this one space and this large knight, then I would recommend you to play this small knight instead. And here's why. If you play this one space jump, at any point, white can invade your 3-3. Or white can even come from this side to try to get some stones over here. If you don't defend it, then white can either leak into your thing or simply pip you and try to work something in this corner. Even if you defended this, white can still get into your 3-3 and you can't really do anything about it. What if you defend it like this? Then this exchange is definitely good for white. White can back off, or if white wants, when white have stones over here, white can still reduce your corner like this. If you defend it like this is obviously terrible. White can leak in this way. So your corner is going to get reduced no matter what when you have this one space jump as your defending move. And you have the same issue when you have this large knight defense. At any time when white 3-3s you, you can't really do anything about it, because white, if you block from this side, white's simply going to live. If you block from this side, then it's obviously bad for you because it was your corner, but you only have like 6-4 points over here. Even if white doesn't immediately 3-3s you, white can approach from this side. This way white can get some stones over here. If you don't defend it, white has this move to leak into your corner, or white can still 3-3 you. If you defend it once, although this weakness is gone, but 3-3 is still wide open. What if you defend like this? This is still open. If you defend like this, white can use this to get some influence out there. So unless you have a very specific strategy to work with your one space or large knights, then I would recommend you to simply defend with the small knights. And defending with the small knights is saying three things. First, I'm going to expand toward that side. And second, whatever you do over here, I don't care. I'm gonna take my big points first. And third, whatever happens over here, I'm going to get my sente and play away so I can get the big points first. What if white comes in like this? Then you can tenuki. As black, you can play away and play the big points. What if white approaches here? If you want, black still can tenuki. What if white attaches here? Then, if you know the joseki, at the end of the joseki, black still gets to have a sente and play the big points first. From here, black can play away. I mentioned earlier that small knight's defense is also saying whatever you do over here, I am going to tenuki, which means, let's say we have a stone over here. If white 2 space extensions, black doesn't go back and apply pressure on these 2 stones. If you wanted to apply pressure on these 2 stones, then you should have pincered this stone in the first place. You don't go defend and let him settle and then come back to apply pressure on these 2 stones, because that's too slow and this stone later gets really awkward. So if white 2 space extensions, you just play away. It's same with the 3 space extension over here too. I see some people likes to make this exchange, but this is a terrible exchange. First of all, white got stronger and white doesn't have to worry about the invasion over here anymore. And at any point, black has an invasion over here. If black answers, 3-3 is still open and white has sente. That's why when white plays over here or anything over here, black plays away. After the sides of the board are all filled, if white still hasn't played over here, then black can consider coming here and applying pressure on these 2 stones. Let's talk about pincering. The pincer, the biggest difference is when you pincer your opponent, it's usually difficult to get a sente at the end of the joseki. But in some rare cases, you still get to have your sente. Let's say if white invaded into your 3-3, then you still have the sente at the end. Another thing about pincering is, if possible, you only pincer when you have your stone on the opposite side, like this. If this stone is a white stone, then you just settle with your small knight's defense. You don't go back and pincer this stone because there's another white stone waiting for this stone on the other side. And let me show you why this is important. When you have your own stone over here, and even if white turns around and takes your corner like this, this is a very popular joseki, like this. Hane is back, hane, extend, and jump. If you take a look at this, it was black's corner. Black should have more than white in this corner, but white got about 10 points and this shape is about 5 points. So this is a good exchange for white. But since we have a stone over here, we're starting to form a moyo or something over here. So we have a better potential to make even more than 10 points in this area. But what if this stone is a white stone? Then this group's growth potential is limited to only this area. Even if you play here and white defends and you try to grow your moyo, this is still a very loose moyo. At any time, white could shoulder hit you. If not, white can loosely reduce you from here or even from here. And black doesn't have a lot of points actually. But on the other hand, white has solid territories on both sides. So you only pincer when you have your own stone on the other side. Otherwise, it's not going to be the greatest exchange for you. Let me show you another example. What if white jumps over here? Of course, you're going to answer first. And white counter pincering you is a bit of overplay. So you can simply shoulder hit this stone when white extends. Black jumps. White extends. Black connects. You see, white has two floating groups in here, and it is going to be an extremely difficult game for white from now on. But what if we have a white stone over here? Then this is only one floating group versus another floating group. But the difference is black is only getting a few points over here while white is growing a moyo over here. So if you pincered with your stone on the other side, then you get to turn this game into your winning game. And if you pincer when you have your opponent on the other side, then your opponent's overplays can all of a sudden turn into game-winning moves. I know I'm saying this a lot in this video, but you have to remember, because I see a lot of people do it, you only pincer when you have your own stone on the other side of the board. If your opponent's stone is over here, then you simply go back and answer with the defensive move. Even if this kind of tragedy didn't happen, even this exchange is not great for you because you instantly limited your growth potential to from here to here, and it is also kind of easy to reduce over here. To sum it up, when you defend like this, it's like saying I'm going to go that way, whatever you do over here, I don't care, and I'm going to get my sente whatever happens over here. When your opponent settles, you don't go back and apply pressure on these stones. You play the big points first. If you wanted to apply pressure on these stones, then in the first place, you should have pincered it. When you pincer, you have to make sure the opposing side have your own stone. Otherwise, this game can get awkward. To sum it up, when you're defending your corner, you don't defend with the one space jump or this large knight's move, because these two moves has too many weaknesses. So if you want to defend, you only use your small knights, unless you have a very specific strategy about this one space and this large knights. If not, simply defend with the small knights. And this defense is also saying I'm going to grow this way, and whatever happens over here, I'm not going to touch you, and whatever happens in the corner, I am going to get my sente at the end and play the big points of the board. Which means, even if I place this, you don't come back and apply pressure on these two stones. Same with the two space extension too. You don't come back and apply pressure on these two stones. If you wanted to apply pressure, then you should have pincered this stone in the first place. And when you're pincering your opponent, you have to make sure the opposing side has your own stone. If you don't have your stone over here, then at the end of the exchange, you lost points and you have very limited growth potential.